Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the sixth episode of Pony Racing. This is the um, competition where some players try to be the first to solve the same pwnable challenge. And I'm going to be your commentator. My name is Zeta Two, and together with me I have my teammate Bob. Hello, Bob.
Hello.
So today we have three participants, and Bob, maybe you could do a short introduction of who are playing today.
Sure. Start with the top left. We have acez, who is a first in two categories for us. He is the first master of Pwn to Own winner that we've ever had, uh, with in the by himself and also with the team fluoroacetate with Richard Zhu, not Ricky Zhu. And then he's also the first Shellfish member that we've ever had, and obviously Shellfish is one of the longest running teams and very impactful in CTF culture, so that's really awesome to have. Then on the top right, we have Blasty from Einbarzen, who is one of those old school war game CTF guys who just, I've always seen his name about and been reading his exploits and then seeing him on Twitter dropping 0 days out of nowhere. So that's fantastic to have. And then the bottom left is Likvidera, who is a security researcher and plays for a little known team. Just got to look down here, Hacking for Soju. And he is going to be taking that third slot. We don't have a fourth slot this time because our participants scared everybody off. So, yeah, that's it.
Amazing. So yeah, welcome everyone, all the participants. Nice to have you here. So have you all downloaded the challenge archive and you're ready to go? Aces,
Yep.
Blasty,
Yep.
Likvidera.
Yep.
I'm also posting it in the chat as usual if someone wants to like play along, the sing-along version of the pwn. Great. Then I think we will jump straight into it by just doing a countdown. I'm gonna move you into another channel so that you can't hear, or I'm gonna move us.
Channel switched. User was moved to your channel.
Okay, so I will be doing a countdown now, and then we're starting. So, yeah, we're starting in 3, 2, 1, go. Good luck, everyone. Okay, cool. So we are off. Let's just do the usual round to see how they all start out. Starting with acez. So it's just unpacking the archive using Ida, popular choice.
Yep.
And let's check in with Blasty, also Ida. We can see here that he's also checked what kind of architecture. So this time we're actually doing an ARM binary.
Right, ARM was the twist. That was the little twist that you discussed before on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not a huge twist, but we opted for a different architecture this time.
Yeah, I thought we'd give it a little test. Should be interesting. Obviously, they were all familiar with ARM, and it's not so different, in Linux is Linux basically. But there are a few ARM-specific things in this challenge for sure.
Yeah. So checking in with Likvidera, who is using Ghidra. So 2 IDA users, 1 Ghidra user. Interesting to see the differences as usual. It's just doing some initial analysis. Maybe his screen seems a bit stuck, so we'll come back to him. But I see here that acez is like already running the program. It's checking what it does. So maybe Bob, if you could just do a short explanation of what kind of program this is from just like a user perspective, or
Sure. So it's obviously, as we said, it's a little ARM binary, really tiny, and it just has basically the main function and then the banner printing, because I like to do those obnoxious banners. And all it does is it takes a bunch of numbers from the user, takes a little input, converts it to a number using A to I, and then at the end of this loop, it will just provide a little summation. So it's a little summation calculator. Very simple.
Yeah, it's cool. And we see here that I think all of the players have been like looking a bit at the code, and as you described, and it's like super simple. The reversing is super simple, really short. And we see here already that Blasty found the stack overflow.
That's correct. So obviously there's no limit to the number of numbers. The numbers are read into an array of numbers, and there's nothing to stop you from keeping writing, over the stack canary, over the return address. So that's what he's doing. He's found the buffer overflow, but of course it's never that simple, is it?
No. And we can see here that there is a stack smashing detected, so he will have to find like the other. This was the obvious part, and then he will find the not as obvious part to it.
That is correct. So we'll wait until that happens.
Yeah, we can see here with acez, he's already doing some exploit scripting, as we've talked about in most episodes, like get that automation out quickly to get rid of all manual work and boring repetition that costs you time and motivation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's been the winning strategy of all the people that have won. They've definitely opted for that approach, so that's always a good way to start.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I found was interesting about doing this little ARM setup is like these come up in CTFs and war games all the time. So I thought this would be a great opportunity because I get approached by some people who are just learning and like really enthusiastic about pwning in CTFs like I am. And then they find some of this stuff scary, but it shouldn't really be that scary. And so they get to see how it's done. And so like, for example, you saw acez, we've given him a libc. He ran the run script, which was just running the binary through QEMU ARM, but it didn't link the library of libc. So you saw that's what he was doing when he was editing that run script, adding the -L, capital L, to set the library path, for example. That's something that you might do in a normal CTF. So
yeah, and if we look here at Blasty, he's doing this a little bit old school stuff. So acez, he's done this like Python script with Pwn tools, which is what a lot of people do. But we've seen this approach as well from Blasty, which is like you do your like inline, in this case Perl script, so which also a giveaway for being a bit old school, I guess. And just piping it to actually strace.
Yes, which is a fantastic trick with these things. Like a lot of people don't know that you can use ltrace and strace, especially strace, with these QEMU binaries, these QEMU user binaries. So I think that's a legit way to go.
Yeah. So now we can see that Blasty is starting his Python scripting. So he did a little bit more exploration with just a few some dynamic analysis before he started doing the like scripting in a like a script file.
Yeah. And if I could just take a minute to explain one thing, which is that the protections on this binary is full railroad. It has a stack canary on all functions, and NX. That's what the binary is going to tell you while you're playing. So it'd be interesting to see if anyone finds a way around that, obviously.
Yeah, because that's probably going to be required, right?
Right. It's going to be required, or they're going to exploit the larger environments, or some byproduct of the environment, which we can talk about in more depth when it happens.
Yeah. Let's check in with likvidera. He's doing some reversing, naming things, like these functions at the beginning. There was the banner print function.
Yeah, so I think, like a lot of people think that that's a little bit of a waste of time, but I do the exact same thing, right? Because I find that when I'm renaming things and making the structs and all that sort of stuff, I learn the application and I get to like sort of get a coverage of the code and all that.
Yeah. And also kind of like, because everything you don't explicitly rename in your tool or whatever, you are like subconsciously renaming in your head, right? So that requires a small but non-zero like cognitive
Brain power.
effort. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And that
Use
eats
the
from your
tool.
budget, right?
Exactly. So you have tools. We're computer people. Just use the goddamn machine.
Exactly. Like name things. So yeah, I do the same. Even things that are like obvious, like things that doesn't I'm pretty sure this doesn't matter, but at least then I get it out of the way if I so like a banner function call. Like I'm pretty sure it's not going to be relevant, but it's just give it a name.
Yeah, housekeeping, just good organization, keeping it clean.
Yeah.
It's a good way to go. For later, when things do get complicated, obviously.
Yeah.
So if I might be wrong here, but if I'm looking at Blasty's screen, I think what he's doing is, so obviously you can do the summation calculator thing. So the idea is, so if he overwrites the wrong value or whatever, like the canary, can he leak it? I think I might be wrong, but I think that's sort of what he's thinking. Like he knows he can do the buffer overflow, but he's looking to use that output of the summation to leak. But of course, this happens outside of the main while loop of the program. So it's not that viable of a method, I don't think.
Yeah. So he's doing some kind of like search here. He's running his script with a couple of different parameters, and we can see the strace output on the left.
Yeah, it's definitely a good way to get that overview for sure. I am fascinated that everybody seems to opt for a dark theme. I mean, I know Likvidera didn't have time or whatever to do that on Ghidra, but that's his preference as well.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a little pre-match discussion here about colors and screens and themes and stuff. That was...
Yeah, I'm just all about that bright white, beaming into my eyes.
Yeah. No, I mean, like... I like neither the like fully saturated white nor the like complete black. Like either like super light gray or super dark gray, I think is like the easiest on my eyes. It's something
For
like
sure.
if you look at acez terminal, for example, you can see that it's like a dark gray shade. Though I would have opted for a little bit more contrast.
So it's interesting to see that he's using Pwny debug though, right?
Yeah. So if we look,
because obviously the thing with Peter is it had its day, but it doesn't really support other architectures. So when you want to use GDB multi-arch, which is what you would use for something like this, because it has great QEMU support, you can't use Peter, so you have to use this other thing called Peter ARM, which isn't really that good at all. But when it comes to modern Gef and Pwny debug, they just they do this no problem.
yeah. So let's check in with the acez again. He's now writing some kind of comment here. So null. Oh, he's found the other trick then.
Right, so we can discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So you see how he wrote the comment said null stack canary. On this right here, there's some pointer arithmetic, and then it assigns a null value. So Bob, maybe you can explain what's going on here.
Right, so the code, if you look at the code, it's like, it looks like it's trying to write a little null block of a 64 bits value of 0 at the end of the string. But because of that bad pointer arithmetic and casting, and this is the sort of thing that you might see, it's a bit of a convoluted version of what you might see in real life sometimes. He knows that he can potentially overwrite behind the buffer. The buffer is in the data section, and right before the buffer is the stack canary, because that's the difference with ARM. ARM does not have segmentation like we used to in x86. So it doesn't stick the stack canary in the global segment like we used to. It sticks it in the BSS, which is right before this buffer. So in this instance, if he can write that 0 before the buffer, he overwrites the stack canary reference, which means he knows what the stack canary value is going to be, which is his bypass.
Yeah.
But how you do that, that's the question, because the arithmetic basically says whatever read returns minus 1 from that. So obviously if you provide 5 characters, it's going to return 5. So minus 1, take off 1 character, and then write the value there. So what he's looking is for read to return the end of file or 0.
Yeah, and that's something like if you run, for example, if you would just run the program in your terminal, you could, for example, just do like a Control D to send the end of file. And actually, if you run the program locally and do that, you get the stack smashing detected trigger.
Right. So he has full control over the stack canary if he makes that happen. So obviously, sometimes we like to take simple bugs and little chains, and that's what's happened here. And he was right onto that. So
Yeah.
we have that buffer overflow, and we have the ability to write an out of bounds null over the stack canary.
And I think we
which
should
is before the buffer.
clarify here that when we say overwrite the stack canary, we don't mean the like instance of it that's on the stack that's supposed to be like untouched. We are talking about like the original secret value that's like global for the program, the thing that gets copied onto the stack and then gets checked against before the return.
Yep, absolutely. The super secret reference, stack canary, stack cookie, whatever you want to call it. And here you can see he's looking for how he can get read to return a 0. So he's onto it. He knows exactly what he's doing.
And this is a trick which I got wrecked by last year sometime when I was trying to solve a challenge. And this had the exact same mechanism that you had to get the thing to return end of file. Because one way, of course, to do it is just to close the connection, right? Then, of course, it returns end of file. But then also you won't get any output from the program. So how do you do that? That's the thing that they have to figure out.
Exactly.
So if we leave him there for a moment and we check in with Blasty, he's also looking at, let's see, he's doing some reversing. I'm trying to see like how far he has come in the analysis. It doesn't really seem that so he's typing something. So we can leak a cookie, it looks like, but new connection, new cookie. Oh my god, what now? Okay, so he found like a leak, but a completely pointless leak.
Right, so this is what I was talking about earlier, where I thought I assumed what he was doing, which is like, so he's using that result, because it sums a list of numbers, obviously.
Yeah.
If the canary is at the end of that list of numbers, then he's getting the canary, because he knows what numbers he fed in, so he just subtracts that from the end result. But the thing is that at the point that happens, you're right before the return on main, so there's no more program to run. It's about to close your connection, kick you out.
Oh yeah.
So it's not really useful to try and leak it.
So let's switch over to acez here. He's Googling, which is another powerful tool, and he's on Stack Overflow, where you so often end up. And he's trying to figure out in what circumstances can you get read to return end of file.
Right. And I should mention that end of file has two values in when you see programming. In this instance, we're talking about a 0, which is the EOF constant on that system. For other higher level C wrappers, instead of just like read directly, obviously that would be a -1, which can't be cast into a character data type because it's 32-bit. So that's not what we're talking about in this instance. What we're looking, he wants EOF meaning 0. So he wants the read to finish, not kick him out and say, I've only read 0 bytes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Google, I mean, it just goes to show you, right? This guy is master of Pwny multiple times.
And now he's onto the right track, actually.
Absolutely. So what he's looking to do is close down one half of the socket, right? A socket is multiple descriptors at the bottom. So you can close the right end of a socket as opposed to the read end of a socket. If you close the socket outright, it's closing the read and the write. If he just closes the right end, fantastic, right? He gets an end of file on that read. But there's a catch, which is that if he closes the right end of the socket, that's it. He's not writing any more data to that socket unless he does some weird socket reuse stuff or whatever later. But he has to make sure his payload does everything he wants it to do. And in these pony races, he's not looking to just read a file. He's looking to execute a very specific command for the flag submitter. So it definitely adds a little bit of complexity. But yeah, he's onto both vulnerabilities. He's onto the path. You really see that. You see why he's a master of Pwn, I guess.
Yeah, it's really cool. So let's let's leave him for a while he figures out how to put all of this together, and we can check in with Likvidera, who is I think he's setting up his environment properly for running the binary. It looks like he's doing some symlink on the binary format thing. So, setting everything up for the elf loader and QEMU and things like that. So,
in his defense, he was a last-minute addition. As we said, people were scared off because of the quality of the participants. He was brave enough to step up. He's obviously very good. I just want to put that out there. We get to see him hack all the time. We know his level. But he didn't really have time to set everything up. So he's the fact that he's doing it now shouldn't be judged.
No. So let's look in with Blasty. Let's see if he's still on this leak thing, or if he's exploring other options. Because this is the dangerous thing, right? When you find something that's something, you can easily get stuck on that and try to figure out how do I make use of this, while in reality it might not even be usable at all.
Absolutely. I mean, that is the game. Sometimes you're down the wrong path and you might spend way too long. I mean, I know I do that all the time, for sure. And somebody in the YouTube said, source code deleted, said that everyone on here is good. Remember that. And I think that's something definitely, you know what I mean, to put out there. Like, everybody we've had on this is a killer.
Yeah.
So when you see somebody taking their time, that's what it is. That's these guys that are really good. That's how it works. You just don't get to see how the sausage is made usually. You don't see the Googling. You don't see the reading the man pages and the setting up environments and messing things up all the time.
No, you just see the run exploit.py and then the shell pops.
Yeah, and then the big bounty check and
yeah. So that's true. We had some other comments here in the chat. Someone said that it sounds like I like Binary Ninja when we're talking about colors. I do like Binary Ninja for some stuff, but yeah, and it has a nice color scheme, so that's true.
Yeah, okay. Let me just put this out there, just to for full disclosure. Zeta is a Binary Ninja fanboy. All right, he loves Binary Ninja. I'm just the one who tries to pull him away from that to keep it fair. I'm Team Ghidra all the way. But I've heard it's a great tool, and I'm sure the color scheme is amazing.
I mean, I'm the right tool for the right circumstance type of person. So I have all of them installed. But no, I mean, IDA is still my default choice, and then the other I consider specialist tool for certain scenarios. And then there was something about someone was afraid that Blasty was going to write his whole exploit as a bash one-liner. Yeah.
I did that as well when I was testing, so that's not that ridiculous. You can definitely do that. It's a little painful because you got to fill those buffers, but it's doable.
Yeah.
I do it like him. I got to be honest, right? So I was looking up to these sorts of guys like Blasty and stuff like that when I was developing. And obviously, I'm like, I'm pwning all the time. And some of the tricks that I got from that sort of generation of guys, I still use all the time. I still do Perl one-liners rather than the Python ones. I do that stuff. So, don't knock it.
Yeah, I started out with this much later, so uh, it's it's just I mean I don't even know Perl, so uh, it's
I mean, nobody ever really knows Perl.
it's the same. It's the only language where the original source code and the obfuscated one looks the same. Like you can't tell if was it written like this on purpose or was it run through an obfuscator? Like you can't know.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those weird languages. But I'd rather code Perl than like Lisp or something.
Yeah, for real world stuff, typically yes.
For anything. Hello world.
We have some dynamic stuff going on here with Blasty again. So, what is he up to now? He is. I'm trying to figure out what this parameter that he's inputting is. That like how many, like how far he can go, or yeah.
Yeah, I guess. He's just trying to see what else is on the stack, I guess. You got all that environment, CRUD, and all of that.
Oh yeah, because
you know what? He's maybe thinking he's going to use the stack canary fail. There's that thing that you can do.
Oh, you
where
can.
If you write the environment all the way down, you overwrite argv0.
Yeah.
And then when the stack canary fails, it does a print f on that using that value.
Yes, but that's just so that would give him. That would kind of like elevate him from like leaking the canary to potentially leaking any memory, right?
Right.
But doesn't really get him closer to because he needs code execution.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think he's just exploring the options.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Like I could see myself doing the exact same thing.
No, I mean,
and I need to put it out there. Even though we would have invited Blasty by himself, he actually qualified through the community challenge.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't need to, and his method of pwning that was very novel. Like it was a fantastic method that nobody else came up with. He's got the stuff. There's no doubt.
Yeah. Speaking of the community challenge, we've had some feedback and people requested us to like put up solutions and explanations for the community challenges and also the episode challenges, and I think that's a really good idea. So we will most likely be doing that. Unfortunately, the schedule is a bit tight right now, so it might not happen like in these next few weeks, but it's definitely on the roadmap to like get all the to have some like good reference materials and to be able to learn from that, even though you didn't maybe solve it yourself, so you can go back and check. Probably gonna do like just a public GitHub repo with the solutions and some articles with that, and then maybe people even can just submit their own if they did it in an alternative way or something. We haven't really figured out all the details, but yeah, definitely good feedback from people, and we're doing that eventually.
Yeah, that's fantastic because there's a lot of little tricks and stuff that have been covered while we've been doing these, so that's fantastic. I think I know what Blasty's doing, by the way. I think he's trying to figure out how he can exit that main loop and retain the canary.
Okay.
Which I don't see paying off, to be honest.
Yeah. So let's check in with... first I'm going to check with likvidera again, because he has started writing his exploit. Unfortunately, his font is a bit on the small side, but it looks like... Yeah, he's just setting up like the boilerplate for the exploit to be able to like run everything in a good way. So that's good.
There's some good stuff that you can learn there, like how he's setting the library path, for example, and all of that in order to run this ARM binary.
Yeah.
And it's QEMU user, by the way, not QEMU system. So system would emulate the whole system, but QEMU user doesn't. It just gives you enough to just run the binary. And that's going to be important later, but I won't go into why right now.
And you can see here he's using the pwntools GDB the integration thing to set up so that you can run your exploit and launch GDB from the same script to like attach everything. It's like you have everything contained in one self-contained script. So that's really nice. And you can also see how he's actually modifying the parameters for his terminal and stuff, so that it integrates nicely, I guess, with the window manager, I guess, to not open like a separate window or something, because that's the default behavior, I think.
Right. Yeah. So he can, you can do it like attach it as a pane, and it's like really quite convenient.
Yeah.
I never. So this is just me. When I'm pwning and I get a MIPS, risk V, or whatever arm, through one of these Kimu user things, I gotta admit, I don't do the GDB attach thing with pwn tools.
Yeah, so
I'm doing manual attaching and stuff like that with GDB multi-arch.
yeah, I'm also doing manual attachment right now but I mean that's because I insist on I've been helping out a little bit with the Python 3 branch of pwn tools, and
Right.
like the only thing I think that doesn't really work properly yet is the GDB attach thingy stuff. At least it didn't
Okay.
work for me, but so I just did that manually instead.
Yes, so if he figures it out or whatever, that's a like great little trick. I'm not sure which version he's using, obviously. He might be on Python 2.7.
Yeah.
Because all the elite people will stay with Python 2.7 right until that last day in December.
Yeah, I mean, it's like right now I mean, for example, the status of pwn tools is like it works. Almost everything works, but there's some small quirks, and if you're not, willing to spend a few minutes now and then to like sort it out, then just wait until it's properly ported. But it's almost there, so it will be fine for the end of the year, I think.
Yeah. That'll be unfortunate. Then I have to start putting parentheses around all my print statements.
I mean,
It's gonna ruin my life.
yeah. So let's check in with acez, because he has a ROP chain going on here.
Oh boy. Okay.
So
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting for me. So he's using native. Now I need to put this out there. acez has written his own ROP tool gadget finder called XROP. I'm not sure if that's what he used to find these, but he is using the native gadgets in the binary. And in ARM, you want to control the first 3 arguments, R0, 1, and 2, in order to do most things, to call most functions or whatever. Here you can see that he can populate from 3 all the way up to 9, and then PC, which is obviously the equivalent of IP in x86.
yeah.
So that's interesting. That's interesting because there's a quirk that I'm not sure he is using XROP actually. So there's a quirk, and I'm not sure he knows what it is. So I won't discuss it yet.
Yeah, we can pause that thought for a moment and check some questions we got in the chat. So the first question was here by Chagi, who asked if you need to be proficient at writing C to be good at pwning, or can you be good by just understanding / reading it? I think, I mean, the most important stuff is to be able to read code and understand. Now, of course, if you're doing kernel level exploits, you typically would write some C code or something that you can compile, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, for kernel level exploitation, you have to be able to read the kernel code.
Yeah.
It's like you can only get like it definitely speeds you up on being able to understand like these subsystems. There's some futex chain or some ridiculous stuff like that. So C, if you're going to pwn for real, you're going to know C. Like you'll pick it up as you go, but you're also going to get proficient with assembler and all of these other things. They just sort of blend into one body of knowledge.
But I think the point is that the most important stuff is to be able to read it and understand what it does. But
Yeah.
I kind of find it difficult how you would, get good at that and not automatically pick up how to write it at the same time. Like, to me, these are not distinct, separate skills. They are like highly correlated, like being able to read. But yeah,
You're not going to be writing great C just from that. That's
No.
its own path to walk in life. But for sure, yeah, just exactly what you said. And I just think, but you can get far with just Python and a debugger and just figure stuff out by yourself. There's nothing
Yeah.
to stop you
No, I
figuring
think
stuff out.
the general thing is that you should understand like how a computer, like how programs work, how machine code or assembler works, and then like C is just syntactic sugar on top of assembler basically. And then
Right.
it gets more complicated if we go into more higher level language like C++, Rust, Go, things like that. Then it gets, then you need to know specifics about those languages.
There's another question, which is someone saying, wait, so since they're not trying to cat the flag, but rather running the submitter, shouldn't closing the connection be as good as shutting down the right end? He's actually onto something. Yes, it would be if they set the payload up correctly, but it really depends how you do it, right? So if you're just running a bin sh payload, which a lot of people like to do, obviously, that's the main way to do these things, then that will also get an end of file and quit. So that's not going to get you anywhere. But if you set up a full exec VE payload and you set up all the arguments as well, you need that arguments array and all of that stuff, then yeah, 100%, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and I think the only way, the way we could change that would be to make the submitter like interactive. So for example, you run it, it prints out like a random number, and you have to type in the same random number back to it to prove like interactive code execution or something.
Right, yeah. But in this instance, what's to stop them just binding a shell or something?
That's also one thing I didn't ask you before we did this, because I said we talked about like this thing having to do the half close and stuff, and just opening a reverse shell could be another way to do this, but
yeah, absolutely,
because there's no outbound firewall on this.
Well, now you've just told the whole world that, so that's fantastic.
Well, we'll see how long I keep it up, and they have to exploit it as well. Please don't make my Amazon bill huge.
So he's going for the ROP, which is great.
Yep. Can we try to figure out what like where he's going? He has what he called the popper. Was that the big one? Yeah, with all the 3 up to PC.
Yeah. So that's the one that gets you most registers, but remember, it's not getting you 0, 1, and 2, which would be the first couple arguments that you'd use for stuff. I imagine what he's doing is getting a leak. He's doing like a sort of leak style thing, but I don't know how that would work if you shut down the right end of the socket, because you leak and then what?
Maybe it's just like preliminary work, just
right,
setting up the ROP chain, trying it out, using it, just call something
as debugging sort of thing.
Exactly, to prove yeah. And now someone said, aha, now we know it's AWS. Well, that part you should be able to figure out by inspecting like the hosts and infrastructure and stuff. So that was not like a huge giveaway.
Honolulu, if you hack him, I will let you come on a pony race. Go for it, mate.
Now you're making incentives as well. Yeah.
Root that box.
Yeah. I have been hacked. That very server has been hacked. It was running an outdated WordPress instance.
Oh god.
It was fairly boxed though, so I just lost some really old data. Anyway, likvidera, he's using Gef, not Pwnybug.
Yes, I do know that he's been using Gef a lot lately for some of his research. He seems to prefer it since it's lightweight and multi-architecture compliant. And it obviously has really cool tools in it as well. It's something that is definitely one to watch.
Yeah. I'm trying to see what it is doing. Still, like, he's setting up some debugging, and I can't really see any specific exploit here. So.
Yeah. So what I think he failed on the attach, and now he's just sort of running it and then attaching through the. You can run a Kimu arm -G and then a port number.
Yeah.
And then it's going to listen and wait for GDP to connect. And I think that's what he's doing.
Yeah, that's how I usually do it when I do any
Right.
chemo stuff. I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but it works for what I've done.
Right. It sucks when it's a server, though. You know.
So he's back in Ghidra, checking the code. Yeah.
I think most of the stuff should be fairly obvious. It is unfortunate we had him as a last-minute contestant because the environment stuff did slow him down, but he will have no problem in spotting all the vulnerabilities.
Yep. So checking with Blasty again. He is
Still onto that path, unfortunately. Looking for a leak. He's focused on that result value.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
So,
But this is how it goes. This is how it goes. You know, sometimes you have to exhaust all options down one path before you consider the others.
yeah. I mean, the absolute worst thing is when you are actually onto the right path from the start, and then you make a slight mistake, so that you think, oh, okay, this is not going to work, and then you try another thing, and you get stuck on that path.
Oh, someone, Honolulu, said that Gef has an emu command which drops you into a unicorn Python script to emulate the current program. Wow.
Oh, that could be
very useful actually.
useful. So it's like a copy of this current state, and then you can.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
So you could, for example, explore how different gadgets would affect the current state, or.
Yeah, and maybe do like a code look ahead sort of logic in a script or something.
Yeah.
You know, if it followed this path, what would happen? If it followed that path, what would happen? That sounds fantastic. Yeah, Gef is definitely one to watch. They got some
yeah, I should
beautiful little
probably.
exploit
I mean,
tools.
I've we've been talking about it for a long time, but I haven't tried it out yet. So I should definitely be looking at that. I want to see what acez is, how far he's come with this ROP chain, and trying to see.
What is he doing?
Yeah. So he has a chain there. If I can count the number of arguments correctly. So. That's
Yeah, so what he's doing, you can see writes, that's obviously the write function that's included in the binary.
Yeah.
And then he has a 21F something address.
Yeah. That's on R8.
Yeah, so 21F, whatever it was, D8. That would be the global offset table. So he's going for a leak.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But the thing is that even though he's closed the right end of that socket in order to trigger all of this, that leak might actually still be useful. And there you can see the results of that leak.
Let's see.
That F6.
Oh, yeah, there it is, yeah. And now he's running it against the remote server, and...
Yeah, so he's just looking for the leak, though. Don't get excited.
No, exactly. We'll just verify.
He might actually understand something about the environment that you wouldn't think is the case, which is that... Can I say it?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so Kimu user is lying to you. Whenever you run your checksec scripts on these binaries, the thing you need to understand is that Kimu user does not have ASLR, it does not have NX, it does not have Pi, it's lying, okay? So when you see these in these CTF challenges, wargame challenges, it's unless they patched it, and only a few patch it, like Insomniac does it a lot, DEFCON guys will do it, etc, etc. Like the really high-end CTFs, they'll always patch this stuff out of Kimu user. But all the others, there's no NX, there's no... So if he gets that leak, there's no ASLR. That leak is going to be consistent between runs. So he'll connect to that service again, it'll be the same leak. Which means he only has to leak it once, and then worry about what he can do, what he can call in libc.
So that's a really nasty little trick.
But that's the game. You
Yeah.
know, you don't just exploit the binary, you exploit the environment. That's a lesson I had to learn the hard way, obviously.
Yeah, and then you pull that on us. So there was a CTF like 2 months ago, which was hosted by a majority of the team, but some of us were actually playing it, and yeah, you pulled that one on us, and we fell for it, so we didn't
Yeah,
solve the.
and I called out some like real-time pros, you know, like with big names and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
That is even some in our team with really big names, and they all got called out. So it just goes to show you sometimes you make assumptions, but the thing is with Aces, he knows all this stuff.
yeah,
So I really think that's exactly what he's doing. He's getting that leak, understanding what the values are on that remote host, but then comes the real rock chain. And so let's talk about what he has to work with. In the data section, that buffer that he reads, that's 32 bytes. So he has 32 bytes to mess with there. And then obviously he can control as much of the stack as is available. So he has some data at a known address in the data section of 32 bytes that he can use. So maybe a little trampoline or a pivot or something like that. And then he has the whole stack. So he has to do something probably with both of these sections, a little dance between both of these sections in order to make something work. And obviously, again, he's not just reading a file. He has to execute a command.
yeah,
And in the binary itself, you're not going to find any of those pop R0, R1, R2 PC gadgets, right? And another thing, last little complication I might mention now is that the libc is compiled in thumb mode, so 16-bit wide instructions. The binary is compiled in R mode, which is full 4 bytes length instructions, 32-bit. So in order to switch between thumb mode and R mode, there's a program control register, and you can set that
User
directly.
joined your channel.
What? What are you saying?
who?
What?
User was moved out of your channel. User joined
Shut
your
your
channel.
fucking mouth, mate.
Sound muted. Sound resumed.
Oh, someone
Wow.
got the okay, continue.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I thought there was some permissions on the server. So yeah. Anyway, Bob, keep talking. Give me a second here.
No, so to switch between R mode and thumb mode, you have to either control the control program register, but some instructions do that for you, like branch, some branches and stuff like that. So the way you do it is you have to make sure the least significant bits on an address is 1. So that's something else that you'll see that he will do later.
Yes, and if we check, yeah, he's still working on that leak thing. So let's jump in with, yeah. So now it looks like Likvidera has everything set up and is doing the, yeah, can do some analysis and exploitation. So that's good, great. And or is he still having problems? It looks like he has run the program at least once.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I should have sorted it out now, so people should not be able to join.
Fantastic. Get his security checked.
Yeah. Or at least you can connect. You can connect to the server, but you can't join any of the channels. So, I think the TeamSpeak permission system is complicated. Anyway, acez is doing some more stuff here. He seems to be leaking a path or something because he was looking to find. Yeah, so you can see there he leaks a string, like buff find slash home slash. So.
Yeah, I think he's trying to find what is the actual path, because he's going to try execute the flag submitter through an exec VE payload, so he needs to know the full path to it.
Yeah. Someone asked if QEMU user has the same -G -S flags for spawning, and it does, right? It's just the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see here he has doing some leaks, and now he looks like he leaked the system address.
Yep. So remember, he has to change the least significant bit of that system address to 1, or else it's going to segfault.
Yeah.
Or,
it is already 1 though. So. Or.
Oh, does it? Oh, he's using. What did he use to find it?
Obidum.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. So then that's doing it automatically. So he's set to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Nice. It's adding it for you. Oh, that's handy. It's something to keep in mind. If you're using other tools, it's not going to add it for you. So if you're going from arm to thumb, you have to be aware of that.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a kind of a neat thing, because since all of the instructions are fixed width of either 2 or 4 bytes, that means that there isn't actually any, like, the least significant bit of any address is actually pointless.
Because, yeah, exactly. It's actually fantastic. Like, I was reversing some firmware and recently, and I didn't know what it was, but because I saw all of those little +1 sort of things on the addresses, it kind of instantly became an ARM thing to me that was fully thumb mode.
Yeah.
So it just sort of gives you that little extra information.
And yeah, so if we check in with Blasty here, he he's typing, so pretty useless, just a string disclosure. I somehow remembered it could lead to format vulnerability. Sad smiley. Now what? Lol.
Right, so that libc debug function just does a %s on the thing. So you can use it to read any bit of the memory, but you can't use it to do a full format string bug attack. Yeah. And I guess that's what he was looking for. But I'll tell you what, it's interesting that, like, you could see what he was doing way before he did it. It's like we're on the same wavelength, do you know what I mean? Like, just from being trained through war games and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's on to the next path, which is, well, I'll tell you what. So all he has to do is look how dodgy that Q word looks. You know, right under the read call. That casting of the Q word pointer and that bad pointer arithmetic. That should stand out. So hopefully... Oh, wow. He's thinking about bypassing fortify source... Oh no, he's thinking of an article, I guess, that must have some secret tricks in it, and he's thinking maybe he can use some of those. So unfortunately that is the wrong path, but I don't know, maybe he's got some magic. Oh yes, I do remember that. So I could see some of these articles that he's reading. I do remember some of these actually. Yeah, you can bypass, especially on 32-bit, you can bypass fortify source to get some format string bugs where there shouldn't be any, but there's no, that's not going to help you in this instance, because the buffer isn't directly passed to printf at the end of the day through libc. There's a wrapper and it uses %s and then passes your buffer. So it's just interesting. You can see he has a library of tricks and reference points in his head, and he's just running through that trying to think which trick he's going to use. Unfortunately, in this case, it's the wrong one.
Yeah, that's too bad. We'll see.
But it's never too late. That's the thing. A guy like this, super experienced, especially in these architectures, it's what he does. So if he just saw that dodgy keyword and didn't skip over it, I reckon he would catch up really quickly.
Yeah. So checking with likvidera now, because now he has some infrastructure issues again. Now he's doing some exinetd configuration to set everything.
That's so unfortunate. He's setting up the full server like you have it, and then he's going to try attach to that. I mean, listen, that works, but I feel really bad now because, yeah, if he had more time, this wouldn't have been an issue.
Yeah. So let's see here. With acez, he is checking that address with the
yes. So that's the data section. That's where his buffer starts from.
Yeah.
That he's looking at now, and he gets 32 bytes to control there. So what's he going to do? Is he going to do maybe a trampoline? Remember, there's no real NX on these QEMU user challenges. This is not a patched QEMU, so he might be able to stick some code there, plant some gadgets, or he can do a little pivot of the stack if he's not going to do that method, and then do like a return to libc. The ideal thing is you want to control the R0 at the very least, right? If you're going to call system or something like that, you need to control R0.
Yeah.
Or look for even if you find a system call, then you need to control R7, which is an important one, and also R0 at the very least. Okay, so he's planting a bin sh string there.
Oh, and that's at the known. I mean, okay, now there is no pi or anything, so everything should be at known locations. But this is like a truly known location, then.
Yeah, absolutely. That's interesting, right? So if you're going to launch bin sh, then you have to provide -c and then a command as well.
Yeah.
Unless I don't know if he's going for system or if he's going for execve.
Yeah, but I mean, if he's going for system,
I guess he was looking up system, wasn't he? So
yeah, exactly.
You have to assume
that
system.
means he can do that, and then,
he can put any command he wants there.
Exactly. Like if he manages to do it for something, then he can just change it to do it for anything.
Right, and the reference exploit does something similar, so this is interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad that the master of Pwny and Blasty and all these elite guys didn't kill it in 15 minutes. So we have that going for us.
Yeah. So
It's a little tricky splitting the payload between the stack and the data section.
yeah. Someone suggests maybe he temporarily forgot that he shut down the socket, right? I mean, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, if you just use your bin sh as a placeholder while you're doing it, then you just replace that for whatever afterwards.
Yeah, right. So it's great for local tests and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One thing that's interesting is notice he's not using Pwny tools. He's doing a raw Python exploit. And he might be doing that because of the socket right closing down thing, but you can do that in Pwny tools.
Yep.
It's not always obvious.
It's a bit
It's hidden away.
yeah. But I mean,
Not
it's
even in the
in there in the doc. Well,
Is it?
yeah, but it's because I looked it up fairly recently, and
Okay.
I remember that there was something off about the documents, but it was there. But it has a strange name or something.
Yeah, I had to read source code to find it, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
So maybe when you're doing your contributions to Pwny tools, maybe make some of those contributions.
I think there's actually. I'm just checking the actual documentation here. Yeah, so there's just the shutdown.
Send.
Yeah,
Right.
which is the default. So just it's called shutdown instead of because I thought it was going to be like an argument to the close function, just like close send or something. But it's a separate function call on the tube's object, which is called shutdown. So it's actually not that tricky, but it's just if you don't know what you're looking, and it's kind of like it has so many functions, so it's like quite far down in documents as well. So yeah, but yeah, you can do that in Pwn Tools.
Yeah, definitely. But sometimes if you're just doing the send receive sort of stuff, um, raw Python's good as anything.
Yeah, what I like about it is all like the receive until and stuff like that. Of course you can.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, before I started using Pwn Tools, I had a small template script that I just copy pasted everywhere. But
Yeah, I still maintain one of those with a pack and unpack and that sort of thing.
yeah, I did. I mean, I did all the struct pack calls manually for a very long time until I started using the like helper functions in Pwn Tools with the P32 and P64 and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, Parental is very useful. Obviously, it's fantastically useful. That context sort of management is great. The ability to pull, symbols out of binaries as you're doing it, shellcraft stuff, automated format string tools, but I use none of them.
Yeah, I use quite a lot of it actually. I really like also like the logging stuff. I never use like raw print statements anymore. I always use their like log info and stuff like that because there's nice colors and you can switch the levels, and they have some like progress meters. So if you're doing some like brute forcing or something, instead of having like a huge scroll back, you can just have a ticker, so it doesn't like fill up your whole shell with text and stuff.
Right.
So there's some neat features there. Yeah, someone mentioned DynElf, which is also super handy if you're doing some leaking stuff remotely.
Yeah, yeah. So one lesson from watching these pony races is that it's two parts. I mean, because we keep the reversing really thin in these.
Yeah.
So then you're left with two parts. One is finding the bugs, and usually more than one or whatever if we chain them. So you've got that part, but then you've got the trickiness of the actual exploit. So here you saw acez immediately onto both bugs. I mean, that was insane. They're like Jinmo level stuff.
Yeah.
And then this is the sausage being made, the art of exploitation. The you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what's the best way to do it? He understands a lot about the environment, obviously, but it still takes time. He still has to edge away at it. So while Blasty is using some amazing tricks and going down that path, which unfortunately I don't think is going to pay off, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could still catch up if he just got those bugs and was quick on the pwn part. He's got it.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
one
like-
thing that's strange now, though, is that if we look at acez, okay, now we don't see it anymore, but he actually like commented out the shutdown part and said like the read will be closed or something. Is maybe he's having some problems with the, I don't know, because everything was working for him. He had the working leak function, but maybe his issue is that he wants to be able to send like a second stage payload or something.
Okay.
Yeah, that's weird.
And I should mention that there is a little sleep at the top of the binary. This is to prevent brute forcing because obviously Kimu user unpatched, there's no ASLR, so if they just found like some stack addresses or something, we could basically just write some shellcode without limitation.
Oh yeah. So, but actually, shouldn't that, since there is no ASLR, couldn't Blasty basically use his leak method for leaking?
No, the canary's going to change.
Oh yeah, so that's gonna like modify. Like then he can't know the value he's leaking, basically.
Yeah, like he could leak a stack address. Yeah, so he can use that method and leak the stack address, but unfortunately, he hasn't figured out how he can bypass the stack canary in the first place. But yes, if he put that together, he could have it really quickly.
Yeah, but the
So,
problem is that his method of leaking is not going to work, right? Because the whole idea is that he sends in a bunch of, say, a couple of ones, and then it adds everything together.
oh, so you're saying it would add the address plus the stack canary?
Oh no, wait, he can just he overwrites that, right? With
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, so it might work, and but the and if he gets it, if he gets the leak and he can pull apart that value and get the actual value,
Yeah.
then he's golden. But
Yeah.
I don't. He just needs to understand how to. So yeah, that previous work that he's done, that understanding that he built up, that might come into his favor.
Because
he's
then he
gonna
could
have
leak
to.
a stack address, and then since
Yep.
there's no ASLR, he can calculate where his stack buffer is, and then since
Right.
there's no NX, he can just write the shell code straight up. But he still needs to do the overwrite of the stack canary.
Yeah, yeah. That's all he would have to do. Yeah, and then one gadget to control PC, or just take the return address.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just
Control PC,
return
point
straight
that.
into.
Right. Yep. And then he could do old school NOP shell sort of thing.
Yeah,
NOP slide, sorry.
yeah. And then just a straight up shell code, and then I mean he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, but you're not dropping in a shell storm, pre-made shell code on this.
No, because the right end is still
Yeah.
gone. But
But again, it's fairly
just a
simple with
regular
Pro Tools.
just a regular reverse shell would work.
Oh yes.
Would
like,
work pretty fine.
Right. But again, he has to assume that outbound works,
Yeah.
which it does.
So someone asked what DynElf is, and it's a module in Pwn tools which dynamically, if you give it like a memory leak oracle. So you give it a function to leak, or like an arbitrary read function, and then it uses that to leak all interesting metadata in the memory that you want, like base address or address of the system function, or any interesting data, like addresses of stack, libc, base, binary base, all of that stuff. So it handles all the, like it reads backwards in memory one page at a time until it finds the elf header in memory, and then it parses the elf header, and then it calculates all offsets from there and leaks that memory, and so on, to just handle all of that stuff for you.
Yeah, pretty handy. Like I'm used to writing those, like when you leak a blind pwn,
Yep.
a little bit at a time
Yep.
over the network and rebuild the binary, but you don't have certain sections on the link, it doesn't stick them in.
Yeah.
And you have to like do all of that manually, so it just like speeds that up.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Yeah, Pwn Tools is amazing. I think like CTFs sometimes get looked down upon by certain, professionals and stuff, like it's a game, it's a plaything.
Yeah.
But there's like two aspects. I mean, some of the skills, obviously, someone's trying to trick you. I'm trying to trick these guys. So they have to bypass that. In real life, it's, no one's trying to trick you. So you have that aspect. And then also the people are passionate. So they've developed these like really interesting tools and methods and generalized methods. Like you see that around the heap, for example. And this is making its way into the real world. So I don't think Pwn Tools is used in the real world specifically, but I've written reports for real bugs and used Pwn Tools as a little proof of concept occasionally. I mean, if it was a very serious thing, I'll rewrite that in C, obviously. But, these tools are fantastic. Like you just...
Yeah, but I
the
mean,
fact
it's
that-
like, it's not maybe your production code, but if you,
Right.
you can just then, you do the proof of concept, and then maybe just take out the parts that you actually need, and you like repackage this into, a standalone thing.
Yeah. I mean, just 5 years ago or even 10 years ago, some of the stuff that Pro Tools does, like instantly, was black magic trickery. And now it's just out there. You'll be poning your first day and you'll be aware of these things. You know, like those one-shot gadgets, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, from 2014, GeoHot, Dragon Sector were talking about it a little bit. It was like a secret. And then it got out there and people started using them in CTFs. And then that David guy from, I think, 217 CTF team wrote a tool, and now everybody does it. It's like, it's the thing that they learn on the first day, this magic trick. And that is really useful in real life. Like a one gadget, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
So it's just fantastic. You know, CTFs do have value. I mean, obviously it has practical education for security value, but it has value with some of these tools and stuff that people are putting out there. Or even Ace's team, right? Shellfish. I mean, you know, they didn't win that DARPA challenge, but they published Anger after. And so now for any of us normal people out there, we're not using Triton. We're not using Miasm. We're using Anger for symbolic execution. And that's just something that kids learn now on day one.
Yeah. I mean, I see some of these what I think pretty stupid tweets from time to time, always from completely like unknown people who are like talking down on CTFs and like how like, oh, this is not the real world scenario or whatever. And
Right.
I mean, first of all, you can do it just because it's fun. It's like it doesn't necessarily have to have a real world connection. So
Exactly.
but it does. And I used to do like I like the analogy of take like a professional, I don't know, football player. They will go to the gym and do like squats or whatever, and that's
Right.
nothing at all like being on the football field. Still, it's useful, and like it will make them a better football player.
Absolutely. And by the way, if we could just like talk about the CTF real world link.
Yeah.
The guy that we're watching is the point to own champion multiple times in a row. That's as real world as it gets in our world, right?
Yeah.
Like we can all admit that hacking a Tesla is pretty badass. Like all those VM escapes, browser pwns, like that's as real as it gets, right? At point to own, they are paying for high level 0 days. He started from CTFs and war games. I've been talking to this guy for years because of CTF and war games. He's a CTF and war game guy. So that's how we got into it. And now all of these events are, it's CTF guys that are in there. So it's definitely part of the recipe, I think.
Yeah. And I kind of like, the inability to see the connection between CTFs and like real skills. That's either because you've only played like really shitty CTFs,
Which I like to do.
yeah, or I think I'm sorry to say this, but it's like you might be a little dumb, like if you can't like it's like the whole educational, look, the way we do education in the world is that we expose people to, like, first we tell them some theory and then we expose them to toy examples to demonstrate this, and then they use that to go out in the real world and solve problems. That's like all education.
Right.
Now, of course, you could, make some very edgy argument about how all education is flawed or whatever, but, then I think you have to, have a pretty strong argument for that or something. Like, that's a quite a big statement, basically.
Yeah, right. But no, you're absolutely right. There is a link. Some of these people are chatting shit, to be honest, and I don't know. I've just seen some kids that are coming up that are just good, right now that I would pit against professionals because I know professionals as well, and I see the level that some of these guys are at. Some aren't that great, and some are world class. There's no doubt. But some of these kids can take some of these mid-level professionals already, and it's because of CTFs.
Yeah.
So practical skills definitely have some value.
Yeah.
Of course, auditing massive code bases is its own thing. Like that's a big challenge. Having the psychology to approach something that seems unhackable, that's a big ballsy move.
Yeah, and this is with the like football analogy again, right? So like doing the
Yeah.
squats is one aspect, but there's more to being a football player.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And with that, let's check in with Likvidera again, doing some reversing. He's like figuring out how the data gets passed around. And
Okay, so here's the thing with Likvidera. He had these environment issues. Obviously, it's unfortunate we put him on at the last minute. But I do know, I've pwned with him. I know what he's capable of. But I also know that he knows all these tricks around Kimu and all that stuff. Like he's deep in that sort of stuff.
yeah,
So none of that's going to slow him down, right? Like you see it slowing Blasty down a little bit because he hasn't got there yet because he went down a wrong path. That's not going to be Likvidera's problem. As long as he's that where he's focused right now, as long as he understands what that is going to do, he has a chance for sure.
yeah,
That's bad points arithmetic.
yeah. So I'm actually a bit surprised that, acez seems to have hit some kind of block here. Is this like it was looking so good? It was looking like he was really onto it, and then I don't know what happened. Like he got confused.
I think he's just trying to figure out the best way because he doesn't see how he can control R0, right? So
Yeah.
he has all the bits and pieces that he needs, and he's just trying to figure out the best way. I think what I'm seeing is to split his payload between the data section and the stack.
Yeah.
But he's not planted. Remember, there's no NX ready, so he's looking at checksec right there.
Yeah.
Seeing that NX is enabled and all that shit. That's a lie, right?
Yeah.
So if he just gets around that, he can plant. You can plant whatever gadget you want. You can plant a pop anything you want gadget, and that would really like speed him up.
Yeah.
So he's stuck at not being able to control R0. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
Also interesting that he used his own tool to find Rob gadgets. Now there's a little trick I could have done, which is that in ARM there's undefined bits in the instructions, obviously, as you know, Zeta. If I set those, it will break his tool. I didn't do that. I was being kind. But that is something that we could have done.
Yeah. And I mean, seeing how everything is working out right now, I think it was maybe a good idea that we didn't. But
Yeah, sometimes we underestimate the trickiness of some of these challenges.
yeah.
It's such a deceiving binary. It's so tiny, and yet, once it comes to the Pwny part, obviously it's a little weird. Here's the tricky part, though. I mean, not the tricky part. Here's the weird part with acez, is that, he leaked the libc, and he knows that it's a static base. So he knows ASLR is a lie in Kimu user.
Yeah.
So
have we seen?
but I don't think
that...
he knows about the NX.
No.
Yeah, we have seen it. It's in his code right there.
Oh, LC base.
Yeah, 63, right. So he knows that, but he doesn't. But I think maybe he's thinking about the NX part.
Yeah.
I'm not sure because he understands like the ASLR is a lie. So does he know the NX is a lie as well?
Well, let's assume that it's not a lie. Can we still? Is it still possible to do?
Absolutely.
That would require like a stack
methods.
pivot thing, or
Yeah, so because you know the libc base, you can still get a system call gadget from libc,
yeah.
which he would be able to get if he loads it into whatever IDA or something and finds that service 0 sort of gadget.
Yeah.
And then but then it's just sort of painful because he has to set up that array for argv and nvp.
Yep. Yeah.
For execv, but which is a pain in the ass. So, but he has known memory in the data section, so he can use that, and know, like, set up his array there, and then he knows where to point the pointers to that array. So he definitely can do that.
Yeah.
But remember, he only gets 32 bytes.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. Like, does
he
it
wants
fit?
to put a string in there, and he
Yeah.
wants to put an array there.
Yeah.
That's not enough space.
Yeah.
So he has to probably, what I did in my version that used that method is I put the string on the stack and then resolve that. Which took a little more time, I'll be honest.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see what he does and if he figures it out.
My favorite part of this is, like, he's a point-to-own guy, obviously.
Yeah.
And you see the struggle's real for all of us.
Yeah.
There's a lot of smart people in these games and stuff like that, obviously, and like creative thinkers, subversive thinkers, like all of these different types of thinkers. But at some point, it really comes down to drive, determination, persistence. And like these top level guys, that's the thing they excel at. They'll be smart, obviously, but their superhero sort of power or whatever is that persistence or that drive or whatever. To never give up, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's the lesson.
I think that's very. I find it very, like, because for me, I do, I guess, mostly reverse engineering challenges. Well, that's like my home field, and
yeah. I mean, you do everything, but yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I had to pick one thing, it would be the reverse engineering.
For sure.
And that's where it really helps to, just like brace yourself and just continue working, because suddenly everything just, falls into the right place.
Yeah, I think reverse engineers and like the crypto people have that in spades. Like they just sort of zone in and take the time to understand it and just keep pushing, and it's like very methodical, and they always get there. But the thing is that's daunting, that you've been training yourself because it's fun to you this whole time.
Yeah.
That it just becomes easier and easier. And so now you don't think of it as climbing Mount Everest anymore.
No.
But that's what it feels like in the early days. What was that comment with the exclamation marks? What
let's check. He's written 6 exclamation marks. There's some frustration going on here, maybe. Now he's writing some C code.
Maybe he's going to. I do this a lot. Like just sort of see how it behaves for certain things. Do you know what I mean? Like you write a little code.
Yeah.
Try to confirm a suspicion or some assumption.
But now he's not even. He just wanted to take the decimal value of.
Oh, so I noticed this earlier that his program counter, so like the equivalent of IP, was set to like 7 FFFFFFF.
Yeah.
So what I think is because you're parsing the values through A to I, it's converting this value that you give it through Python into a signed integer. So anything above 7 FFFFF, you have to invert the bits and set the signed.
Okay. So you have to. Okay, right.
Right. Or you could just subtract it from 10 with,
exactly.
4 bytes
Yeah,
of zeros.
that's I guess how I would have done it, or done you can do
Negation.
like a unpack thing as well.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one, yeah. So he was probably writing the wrong system address, because obviously systems in really high memory, and so that signed int conversion caught him out.
Yeah, so I think the way I would have done it is possibly just, like you pack as a unsigned and then you unpack as a signed integer to get the integer value. Basically, so you're basically doing the inverse of what the server is doing.
Someone just asked, has anybody ever looked at Pwny Pack? What the hell's Pwny Pack?
I don't know. Is it like a alternative to? Let's Google Pwny pack. Certified edible dinosaurs. Official CTF kit. Okay, so.
Okay, yeah, probably the second one. Or maybe it is the
no,
dinosaurs.
like the
'cause
team
they
is
sound
called
delicious.
Certified Edible Dinosaurs, and it's their CTF toolkit.
Oh, okay. Delicious.
And so this that would be like an alternative to Pwn tools, then I guess. Oh,
Okay.
current contributors, Blasty.
Oh, okay. Now, what is he using? That's the question we need to ask ourselves.
Can we? So apparently he did an ARM shellcode generator for the Pwny pack.
Wow. 'Cause,
Now we're going full circle here.
right. But he's done a from Pwn imports everything statement.
Yeah,
at the top
so
of
that's
his
not the
script.
same thing because this is Pwny.
So he's
not
using
using
Pwn
it.
tools,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate because that sounds really handy.
But there is shellcode generation in Pwn tools as well.
Yeah, the
including-
shellcraft stuff
yeah.
is pretty good.
That's top stuff.
I like Keystone Capstone.
Yeah.
I really have some ghetto skills.
So checking with the likvidera is what is he up to? Sending some values. Yeah, so he has a function there. You can see it's called crash. So it just sends a bunch of values and then finishes with the equal to trigger the calculation and the stack or like returning from the function. So he has that bug worked out. So that's not an issue.
Yep. And the environment's set up, everything looks nice.
Yeah. We can see here acez here. He's googling like reopen a socket.
Oh yes, so socket reuse sort of stuff.
Yeah.
He's thinking he wants to, like, he can get out of that loop. He can control everything. He really doesn't want to set up all of that other stuff because, again, he can't control R0.
Yeah.
So he's thinking about maybe some socket reuse in order to get that shell. I didn't go down this path. I have in the past for other types of things. I don't know. I don't know that it's going to pay off, to be honest.
Yeah. No, it's like I think he really needs to fit like the full payload, right?
Right.
So has Blasty found like an alternative route yet?
If you're going to hint them, if this drags out too much,
Yeah.
what would you say?
I
guess you have two, like, people are stuck in two different places.
Yeah.
But for, like, acez, I think if he just understood, because we've taken, like, he could do it purely with libc, obviously. There's nothing stopping him do that because he knows ASLR is bad, and he knows he can get syscall gadgets from there, service gadgets.
Yeah.
So he could set up everything. He can get his pop zeros and all that stuff. But you could, to speed him along, I guess NX is a lie would be the hint. But then I guess since you have two other people stuck on the canary part, you could always hint something about the null right. I don't know. I'm against hints generally in life. But, you can never drag 5 hours out of these people's lives.
No, it's... Yeah, I'm trying to see where... So Blasty and likvidera, they still... let's see, did they... Wait, did they find the... So Blasty has found the close thing, right? But not the canary null thing. Or...
I don't know. I don't know.
No, he hasn't found.
-10.
No. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, he's not closing anything there. So
Yeah.
the end of file sort of hint would be his hint, and I would imagine the same for likvidera.
Yeah. So maybe we should just say that you can, give it like the full hint, saying that you can close the right.
Or whoa, it's still a challenge, mate.
Yeah.
Like it's like these people know what they're doing. I think if you just told them that, like if read,
Yeah. What if
read returns 0 or end of file or whatever, like they would figure the rest out.
Yeah. So just like what if read returns 0?
Right. Is that fair? I'm not sure.
Yeah, and that would
we've done
also
hints
that
in
would
the
kind of
past.
raise the heat a little bit on acez, because then the other two would start catching up a little bit, I guess. So
Yeah, that's a fair point.
brings them back into the race.
And we have done hints in the past as policy every 45 minutes. So it's you know what? You're the boss. It's
Yeah,
your
well,
call.
let's just do that. So I'm gonna drop that to them now. So okay, guys. So there's a small hint coming up here. So just listen carefully. And the hint is, what if read returns 0? Good luck.
Ooh. So obviously completely useless to aces.
Yeah, exactly. He already knows that.
But immediately, blasty jumps in there.
Yeah. So.
I love that the cursor was moving, and as you said that, it just stopped.
Yeah.
And then there's that switch.
Yep. Oh, maybe they just wait. Acez is asking me if outbound connections are allowed, and I guess we should
Opponent's opponent.
So what?
Opponent's opponent, right? So
Yeah.
if you can get it, then it's fine.
Yeah, I just told him yes. So maybe I should just tell everyone that, then they get just to.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. We had a question from one of the participants, and just to clarify, outbound connections from the server are allowed. It's not necessary, but it's allowed.
Okay. Things are hotting up.
Yeah. So let's see how that affects. First of all, let's see how it affects Blasty's exploit.
So you see, he was hovering around that equal thing where he sends the equal sign to exit that loop. So he's probably conceptualizing some of that.
Yeah, it looks like he closed the.
I wonder if he knows that. Yeah, so he needs to figure out that that bad points arithmetic would let him overwrite the stack canary reference.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he's got that part yet. But
Oh,
if
look
he
here!
got that,
An interesting thing here in Ghidra, you see that the pointer arithmetic it shows up as like an addition.
yeah. Because it's signed. So this
Yeah.
is a fantastic thing, right? So you know when you get integer promotion, when you're mixing types across like a bit of arithmetic or something like that, you want to see that stuff explicitly. And Gidra's really good at that. I've been spending the last couple of weeks trying to fool decompilers, mostly for my own curiosity, but also just for challenges and stuff.
Yeah.
And Ghidra is amazing when it comes to all of that sort of stuff. Mixing types and integer promotion with like signed values and extensions and stuff like that. It's fantastic. It's a little bit verbose for the normal case, though.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, because I think it should be, sometimes you really want to know what's going on, and sometimes you just want like the high level concept. I think um, my issue I had was when there was it was just a simple program that was copying, it was like initializing a string by doing moves, a sequence of moves, and in IDA, as soon as I told like that this is a character buffer, it would just replace all of that stuff with a stir copy call.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
That's
show
good.
like this, we are initializing this buffer with this string. But
Right.
in Ghidra, it would like spell out like we are moving these 8 keywords into this buffer with at these offsets and stuff, which is what's actually happening. And
Yeah. But
sometimes
pretty, yeah, like sometimes too much detail is bad, and sometimes it's the godsend you're looking for.
exactly.
Although, how does MLIL in Binary Ninja, is that like, does that compress nicely with, with statements like that? Because I've heard really good things lately
Yeah, I
about
think
that.
so because I mean it yeah. I
Like,
don't think
apparently that's the one, right? Like, to if you're doing programming and stuff like that on the, not the binary itself, but that representation,
yeah.
apparently it's a good one, right?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of positive stuff. I haven't worked too much with it myself yet, so I can't really. But I mean, it does a great job of abstracting some of those things. So
So what would you say Binary Ninja is like good for? Like when do you pop in there? Because you avoid Ghidra like the plague. I've noticed that.
well,
So what?
I
How
I,
does it
I
work
wouldn't
with
say
you?
like so. My issue so far with Ghidra has been like a bit of like a sluggish UI. Some of these being a bit too verbose for most of the stuff I've been doing. I think Binary Ninja is good for just like simple stuff, and it's as soon as you have to script something, like the API
Oh right,
is
yeah, yeah.
amazing. It's like, and that's because it's. I mean, if I understand it correctly, it's kind of built almost like API first. That's like the way they do it, and so in that case, I would almost say that the UI is almost maybe lacking. Like it doesn't even expose all the stuff, right? So they still have a long way to go there to actually expose all the features directly. Um, but I mean, unfortunately, I haven't been doing too much on this in any of the programs lately. Um, so yeah, it's
Well, you have a busy schedule. Obviously, talks coming up and live events and all that sort of stuff.
yeah. Let's see what acez is. He's trying a new payload here, just a touch temp file. So just trying to get some kind of like proof of code execution going on.
Right. Yeah. So he's definitely going to try give a one-shot command sort of thing.
Yeah.
If he gets this code execution working, he's going to go for the outbound connection.
Yeah.
Is Netcat installed on that box? And if it is, which version?
Uh, I mean, is Netcat a default on Ubuntu?
I don't think it is, no.
Then it's not, because
And the one the default one is that not the NCAT. NCAT is like the easy one to get those shells, you know.
yeah. But I mean, if you have Bash, you have
Yeah, of course, Bash, Python, Perl, you could do it with all that.
yeah. So I mean, it's a default Ubuntu, which I mean, it has Bash, so you can do a dev TCP in
Yeah,
Bash.
yeah, yeah.
But Netcat is probably not gonna work. I'm pretty sure it's not a default in Ubuntu. So because I mean the Docker image they're running, it's just a like Ubuntu 18 base image with just the minimal additions to that.
Hmm.
So yeah,
So
he's trying to set up the Netcat reverse shell. So that's gonna cause him some problems.
right. That's something to
Okay, so
think
there
about,
is
right?
one in Ubuntu, but not the one without the nice -e flag.
Right, so that's the dash E is in the NCAT one, which is by the Nmap guys.
Yeah.
They did that for because obviously Netcat is from like the 90s, and then really famous guy in the 90s, and then it wasn't really maintained, so everyone's got their own forks, which
Yeah.
is a bit annoying.
Yeah. It was also commented. I think Binary Ninja is great for automated program analysis, not so great for human analysis. A decompiler is just too valuable for understanding. Yeah, I mean, that's the big drawback with Binary Ninja. They don't have a decompiler yet. So.
But I mean, that's not like you got to remember. Like, I mean, Red Deck was all right, and some of the other ones like Snowman or whatever, they were all right some of the time, but they weren't like proper decompilers like IDA was.
Yeah.
So it's only this year that we even got some competition to that.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
within time, I'm sure like those guys will make it happen.
Yeah.
Or at least make another pseudo representation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love decompilers, obviously. But they can be tricked, all right? You're taking code to like this intermediate language. That's like a lossy process sometimes.
Yep. And that's, I mean, that was one of the things I remember when I started out with this stuff. One of my teammates, who was also my colleague at the time, who taught me a lot of the stuff, he kept repeating, like, always check the assembly, or like the disassembly. Like, if there's anything that's, as long as it's not obvious, you should always check the disassembly to just verify that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that old adage that if you read assembly, you always have the source code.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, disassembly is an easy, lossless process. Like the disassembly is a one-to-one mapping of the actual machine code, and it's not gonna lie to you. It's what the processor will do.
Right. It's
In
just tedious
most
to understand those large blocks of code.
Exactly, and a decompiler is as you said, it's a lossy process. There would be some information will be lost.
Yep.
And most of the time, it's useless information. But then, every now and then, it actually matters.
Yeah. Yeah. So different tools for different jobs. It's probably good to just be familiar with everything.
Yeah, I mean, knowing more stuff is better than knowing less, I guess.
But jack of all trades, master of none, as they say, right? Like
Yes.
a little specialization goes a long way.
Yeah.
So with Blasty, we had some he seems to be redoing the exploit a little bit. So he's ditched his previous notions.
Yeah.
And now he's just rewriting that bit where he sends a bunch of numbers, eats up some stack space. So I wonder if your clue, your hint gave him, if he made sense of it. Maybe.
Yeah.
And now I guess we'll see if he tries to close the right end of the socket. I just got to reiterate, this binary is tiny.
Yeah.
Tiny, like in code, it's nothing. It's just sometimes those ones are tricky. Zeta, you
Yes.
saw the code. What would you rate this in difficulty wise in that CTF rating we use?
I mean, that's the thing. Like the bug is, first of all, like, okay, there are two bugs, right? It's like the stack overflow part. That's trivial, right?
Right.
And then there is the thing about nulling the stack canary, and I would not know that straight away. But I mean, one of the first things I tried when I started the program was just to press Control D again, and that
Right.
that triggers a stack smash detected, and not in the usual way that you're used to, where you overwrite the value on the stack to a bogus value, which then doesn't match with the value that it's supposed to be, but it's like triggered the other way around, because I then accidentally nulled out the target value. Oh!
Right. Oh, what?
Acez is done.
Oh, wow. There it is. Pwny own winner takes Pwny race. Fantastic.
Let's bring him in here and talk to him.
User was moved to
Hello,
your
Acez.
channel.
Hi.
Hey, congratulations.
Well done, mate.
Thank you. I
So-
feel like such a noob, man.
No, it's you were the first to do it. So can you just what was because we were talking when you did the final stuff. So what did you do at the end? Maybe you could just show us your.
So I knew about the read thing. I knew about the read thing for since for a long time, but so I was trying to get around the fact that the read end, right, would be closed.
Yeah.
That's the only way I was able to find. I was able to make read return 0.
Yeah.
So I guess the whole time I believed I needed to get a shell. The whole time I believed I needed to get a shell and not just run a command. So
Yeah.
I was just trying to find a way to get over that. But if I knew it was just a command, I think I would probably have been done a long time ago. So.
Yeah, but I mean,
But
like,
I
if you
feel
can.
I feel like a real noob.
No, but it's true. But I just one question, like, because you're sending this to, are you using system to run the command?
Yeah, I'm using system.
So-
I'm using system.
You could have done just like with bash, just like a dev TCP reverse shell, no? Or would that work? Or
I think it could work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work.
okay,
I'm not sure.
yeah,
I didn't want to try that.
yeah. Well, I mean, you did you ran the command, so you got code execution, and yeah, that's that's what we're aiming for. Maybe. Yeah, maybe next time we will actually require like a full shell, but this is a solution, yeah.
Was there a way to get a shell actually besides getting a connect back, or?
The reference exploit did not get a full interactive shell. Did sort of similar to what you did.
Yeah, it gets the output back. Did you get the output back from the command, right? Or
Yeah.
so then it's basically the same as the reference exploit, basically.
Yeah. So if you had to rate the challenge on a CTF rating between 100 and 500, what would you say?
On the difficulty.
Yeah. Aces?
I would say maybe 200, 150, 200, because I
Okay.
guess if you know this read trick, then you know how to make it return 0.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. Perfect.
So that's
But
cool.
It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice.
Nice. Glad that you enjoyed it, and congratulations. Let's bring in the others as well then, because we're gonna then wrap this up.
User was moved to your channel. User was moved to your channel.
Hello, guys. Good game, well played. Acez did solve the challenge, so yeah, well played, everyone. How did you find it, Blasty?
That was a tricky one.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it though.
cool. So because you went down this path of leaking, using the sum to leak data from the stack. That you were exploring that quite a lot, right?
Yep.
And then, so did you manage to, do this? Because there were two basic, like, two bugs in the challenge, right? So it was like the obvious stack buffer overflow, which all of you found, And then there was like that you could null out the stack canary target value by getting read to return 0 and then writing before that buffer. So that way you could get past the stack canary by just making it 0 instead. And I guess that was what you were stuck on, or am I?
No, that's totally correct. Like after you guys dropped the hint, I was like, oh fuck. I went back to the code and I was like, oh yeah, you can totally write the 0 to stack canary using that.
Yeah.
So in the final moments, I got control of PC. I was working on finding Rob gadgets. Unfortunately, I was not fast enough.
Oh yeah, but it's cool. So how did it go for you, Likvidera? You had some infrastructure issues?
Minor problems with setting it up, but it sorted itself out. But yeah, very tricky challenge, I think. When we got the hint, it sort of started making sense, but yeah, very cool. And congratulations to acez, well played.
Great. Yeah, and thanks again, everyone, for playing. We have some just information before we wrap this up. So we will not be releasing a community challenge tomorrow, as we usually do. So for new viewers, what we usually do is like the day after an episode, we release another Pwnable challenge we call the community challenge that anyone can download and solve and submit to the server. And what we usually do is like the people who solve it, like the first solver or other people, get an invite to participate in the next episode. But we're not doing this tomorrow because, and this brings me to the second point, next episode, which is going to be in about a month, will be not online here as usual, but it will be live on site at the CCC camp, or CC camp. So we're still, finalizing all the logistics around that, but basically we're going to have our participants and me on site at the CC camp with hopefully like a live audience, but we're also going to send it on YouTube as usual, so you can all be watching that from home, even if you're not in Germany. And then the episode after that, we return to a normal episode online again. So towards the end of September, that would be.
Great people on that one as well.
Yeah, that's also going to be a really good one. And then we will return to having the regular community challenges as well. So basically, if you are going to CC Camp, please come and watch the live on-site pony racing and cheer for your favorite pwner. And if you're going and you're interested to participate, please get in touch. I'm available on Twitter at Zeta Two. We also have our website for this whole thing, pwny.racing. Amazing domain name. And with that, I think we're going to wrap this up. Bob, any final comments?
Yeah, sure. I just want to say, acez, now you get to put Master of Pony Race above Master of Pwn on your CV. So that'll be great. And thanks to the others for participating. It's always good to see some top-level people trying these challenges. It was a fantastic one for sure.
Yeah, it was really nice, man. Thanks a lot for the great challenge. It was really fun. Thanks for having me.
Oh, and likvidera, there's a question for you. Someone is asking how far you got. Like, did the hint help once you got it? But I think you kind of answered that. It did, right?
Yeah, the hint made it quite obvious. Yeah.
Because that's the thing, is I knew that you knew all those Kimu tricks. Obviously, you're like good with that stuff. So it's just so unfortunate, you know what I mean, that you had those environmental issues, because it would have been crazy.
It's cool. It was fun. So all good.
Yep. You're all badasses. Thanks very much for playing, guys.
Thanks again for the great
Thanks
challenge.
for organizing.
Thank you, everyone. And make sure to watch the next episode in a month. We're gonna put up the exact date and time because it's gonna be a bit special. It's probably not gonna be on a Saturday as usual, or maybe it will, maybe not. So watch Twitter and the website and YouTube for the exact time. Like if you subscribe and turn on notifications, you will get I will put up the event here as well. So yeah, hope you tune in next time. Hope you had fun and learned stuff, and see you next time.